Today we're talking about all lifelong learning and how important it is for a career, for a life, makes you more interesting. Most importantly, it makes you more relevant and keeps you up to speed and up to date on what's happening in the world. Whatever we learn today, we're going to be doing something different, doing the same task a different way, or getting the same output in a different way in the not too distant future. We started Double Forte before Twitter, before Facebook, before LinkedIn. Can you imagine if we hadn't learned how to use them and understand how they so fundamentally changed the way the world communicates? We would not be in business. So staying relevant on what's going on is very, very important from very different, all these different kind of realms, right? And uh, from a lifelong learning perspective, you can get inputs and read things and see things and hear things. They're not only true, right? And you can get different inputs from fiction and nonfiction and business and news and all this kind of stuff, different voices. And all those different voices will help you synthesize. You will have your brain help you synthesize what you're doing to bring more experience to the world. So combining your knowledge and your experience to be that counselor, that valuable person. What do you think? Have a point of view, right? And have a current point of view. And one that brings, from the past and to the future and from the present and all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of ways to be a lifelong learner. Um, and I just encourage you to do one, two, or three of these things this year, right? Easiest thing, listen to a podcast. Listen to a podcast. The podcasts are, have my own podcast, as you know, Everything Speaks. We talk about everything communication. One a couple of my other favorite podcasts is NPR's Up First. It's basically what's up first in the day, every day. New York Times The Daily, they choose one topic. They talk about it for about 12, 15 minutes. What's happening in the world. Sometimes it's what is front and center in the news. Other times it's like what got past the news, like, oh, we should have paid attention to that. Super, super interesting. Favorite podcast is Men in Blazers. Men in Blazers is about professional soccer, mostly the Premier League, Champions League, UEFA, the whole thing, CONCACAF. And we have now like 4 or 5 different streams. So entertaining, so knowledgeable. Oh my gosh, I learned so much about the world through the lens of professional football, aka soccer in the United States. Another favorite podcast right now is Smartless, hysterical, um, so funny, and I laugh out loud for all of these podcasts. Take a podcast, right? Absolutely. Just put in your ear. You're walking, you're on your train, you're in the bathtub, whatever, on the treadmill, whatever it is, just put on a podcast. Another way, lots of courses, so many courses, right? You could take professional courses like Harvard Business School has great courses, very fun, like the business fundamentals or business essentials group of courses at Harvard. I think they're probably between $1,500 and $2,000 each. They're fantastic. Um, you can see the certificate stacking that's happening on LinkedIn right now. If you get the certificate, people are stacking those up on their LinkedIn as credentials. Very, very useful stuff, like even, finance or accounting for business or that kind of stuff. And if you missed those classes in college, raise his hand. Very useful. Coursera has an incredible library of courses. Choose your topic, choose your instructor, learn away. And LinkedIn has fantastic learning. One of my favorite people in the world, Dory Clark. She has several courses. One of the courses I really enjoyed from her is strategic thinking. And there's just so many ways to learn. What if you did a course a quarter? It could be free. You don't have to do the Harvard ones. What if you did a course a quarter? That's just 4 courses a year. Oh my gosh. At the end of the year, you would already know so much more things, so many more things. Then the last thing is reading. I try to read 52 books every year, a book a week. It doesn't really stack up that way depending on the books. Last year, 2022, I decided, oh, I'm only going to read fiction, which basically broke my brain. I couldn't read that much fiction. But choosing different authors with different genres, with different topics, with different some things that are on the bestsellers list, some things that aren't, some things that are classics, just getting different voices into your brain. Um, we know that when we have a group of people who are different around a table with different inputs, we make better decisions. I think books are the same thing. These are part of your mentorship. Who you choose to read, who you choose to bring into your brain, that is your virtual mentors. And in the business world, the one great place to start is either the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal's best business lists, and or most popular business lists by top business sellers. And you can see there what is trending, and you can see also how many weeks it is. So one book that I totally recommend is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So important. You can see I did a lot of stickies. Tiny change, remarkable results on, and this has been on the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal's business book list for over 2 years. So that means that lots and lots of people are reading this. Lots and lots of people. And if you're an advisor of any sort, and we are all advisors of some sort, being able to, if people want your opinion or they think, what should I do? Or whatever, being able to call on your expertise from your own life and then experience and informed information from other sources just is more helpful, brings you more credibility. And particularly in this one, what I really appreciate about Atomic Habits is his way of thinking about personal position, right? So stasis is impossible, as we know. Physics comes into play. This is where physics comes into play. Being stationary as a living being is very challenging, very virtually impossible. Either you're gaining or you're losing in one way of thinking about it. If you increase 1% every day for a year, you've increased 37 points, 37%. So if you started at 50, if you were a 50 scale on a 100 scale, you would go to 87 B plus. Wow, really good, right? If you start at 50 and you decrease 1% every day, you go to 13. Is that right? 13. Yeah. So you're, close to zero. Same thing. If you start at 90, you almost go to zero, and you never sort of get to 100, but you see my point. In small things, health, make things easier. He talks about stackable habits, habits that are if then habits, like if you're doing this and you do that. So good, life changing. For everybody, I think. I highly recommend that book. Another book I totally recommend is Peter Zeihan's The End of the World is Just Beginning, geopoliticist, strategist who puts everything that's going on in the world in context of these very global trends that were put in place 30, 40, 50 years ago that are not stoppable, or things you can't stop. And it really helps you understand what's going on in the world when you hear the news, so that you can, oh, that's why that's happening. Oh, that makes sense. And then from a planning perspective, what's happening in demographics? What's happening here? What's going to have to change those outcomes? And particularly right now, in terms of what's happening for the workplace and how many people we're missing, and what's happening with boomers retiring, and Gen Xers and millennials and Zs and Zennials and all this kind of stuff. We're 20 years in the United States until we have the pyramid of population that we need to generate the kind of economy that we're used to. So get used to it. Let's start accommodating ourselves right now to what's going on, instead of hoping for more people just to show up, because they're not gonna, right? And unless the United States changes its immigration policy, it's definitely not gonna. Another book, The Next 100 Years, George Friedman. He wrote this in 2009. He actually thinks, so if you think about Peter Zeihan is about like 30 years. Next 100 years starts in 2009. It goes to 1989, I guess. 99, sorry, 2099. The arc is much longer. These Friedman and Zeihan both say they're not going to be right about everything. They're not right about everything. But thinking about things in this long arc, and why they think the way they do, helps you understand what's going on in the world. the particularly around we're in the United States, if you're a resident and a citizen of the United States, we are so lucky to be in this place in the world, and both authors will tell you why. Not that it's easy, and not that it's going to stay the same, because it's not. But compared to the rest of the world, we're in a great place. Another great book I recommend is from my friend Richard Moran, Never Say Whatever, How Small Differences Make a Big Difference. Small decisions make a big difference. See a theme here, small things, big difference. And the fact, if you say whatever at work, you are giving away your power. Whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Whatever. Basically, you are deminimizing yourself in the workplace whenever you say, if someone asks you a question, you go, whatever. You are setting yourself not to be asked. And if you're not asked questions, you're losing your value, and you're setting yourself up for that door and walk out of it. Don't even have the option to walk out of it. So, really good stuff. Really hit home for me, how he talks about saying whatever at home. So my husband does most of the cooking in our house, and he, most of the time he's planning it all, which is so wonderful for me. But sometimes, hey, what do you want to eat, or where do you want to go? And I go, oh, whatever. And that just puts all of the effort. He has to, he's already decided that he wants to give me the choice. I don't always have the choice. And I go, oh, whatever. And it totally minimizes his offer, and it makes him have to think. And it puts the effort back on him, and it's disrespectful. So, really has made a big difference in my life. Never Say Whatever, for sure. Lastly, a great book that I recommend, I read this year, The Psychologically Safety Playbook. I'm actually interviewing Minette Norman, one of the co-authors, later today for my podcast. And it's a playbook. It's like, if this, then that. So A, it's super easy to read. B, it talks about the importance of psychological safety, which is a concept I did not understand. Being last year a boomer, I did not grow up in the business of being psychologically safe in my places of work. I just knew they sucked. I didn't know why. And how important this is for millennials and for these, and basically the whole world. It is important to be safe, psychologically safe in your business. It makes your business better. It makes if people feel safe in your business, they will perform better. You will have a better bottom line. So yes, it's nice, but it's also business. So these are 5 books that I totally recommend for everybody, right? And what if you read these 5 books? You'd have 5 new points of view that you could then bring to bear in your day. So lifelong learning, it's a done deal. You all have to be there. Makes more interesting at a cocktail party. Although my husband probably wishes I would stop talking about Peter Lyon's book. I do it a lot. Just do it, right? What if you read a book a month? What if you took a course a quarter? What if you listened to a podcast once a week? So that would be 12 books, 52 podcasts, and 4 courses, things you didn't do last year. Your life will change. So be a lifelong learner. Let me know what you're reading, what you're listening to, what courses you take. I would love to know what you're doing, and I'll put them on my list.